We are live. It's about 37 minutes after the hour of 12 o'clock. And the topic of discussion is wake up. The topic of discussion, guys, is called wake up. And it's time for men to wake up. On a myriad of reasons, it's time for men to wake up. Because your time with this planet is fleeting. One of the things I think a lot of men, or one of the things I wish folks would have told me about time and life, is that time don't wait for no man. Time don't wait for me, and time don't wait for you. If you guys can hear me, hit one. If you can hear me, hit one. If y'all can hear me, hit one. But once again, time waits for no man. It doesn't wait for me. It doesn't wait for you. And eventually we expire. The scripture said that a man that's born of a woman is but a few days and full of trouble. And one of the things that you gentlemen got to do in 2026 is learn to and begin to prioritize your life. If you're going to be successful in 2026 and beyond, you have to learn how to prioritize your life. Okay. And you have to prioritize your life on a myriad of reasons, for a myriad of reasons. One of the biggest struggles with masculinity is that we tend to live our lives through the vacuum of pleasing others. We give, we sacrifice. We deny ourselves for our families, our kids, our wives, our children. Or sometimes we put off things that are important in life, and we put those things off because sometimes we have fear. And it sounds like the Cam Newton has some fear around marriage. And while one will argue that Cam Newton's fears are justified, and sometimes the church doesn't understand the struggles of men, one also can argue that if Cam is not willing to face those fears associated with marriage and start having kids out of wedlock, the fear of the threat of marriage is going to be compounded with the fear of eternal retribution that he might struggle because Cam Newton is struggling with giving his time, his life to a woman. I can see it on two sides. I think T.D. Jakes in this video was wrestling with his own mortality. And guys, there are two or three things. One is called an existentialist threat. And then the other one is called an existentialist crisis. I myself, at the age of 54, went through an existentialist threat last year back in 2025. Back in May 6, 2025, I had a head-on collision. And that was an existentialist threat that could have led to an existentialist crisis. But see, here's the thing. Some of you guys are going through existentialist threats. And the existentialist threat, before I get back to my situation, is that you're in bad relationships. You're being told what your masculinity should be. You've been conditioned to sacrifice your happiness for the sake of pleasing others. But in the end, you're suffering because you don't have a voice. And so the show that I did a couple of days ago, 2 days ago, was talking about why silver foxes don't settle. Well, the topic of today is that was T.D. Jakes talking about himself and his own mortality and not talking about football. Because see, here's the problem. In my existentialist threat, when I had that head-on collision, it made me become self-reflective over my life. It was a threat, but that threat led to a crisis. But then 2 weeks after that threat, my mom died of a heart attack. And what it reminded me is that time don't wait for no man. You don't have time. Tomorrow is not promised to you. Tomorrow is not promised to me. Tomorrow is not promised to any man. And when you don't learn how to deal with yourself and understand what your fears are and properly appropriate what those fears are, then you're just existing and not living. And it's a lot of men that are just existing because they have family fear that's been associated with their masculinity, or they have health issues, or they have unresolved mental health issues, or they have identity issues because they are still struggling with a condition called arrested development because they're still gridlocked back in the past. And that, because they are gridlocked back in the past, is an existentialist threat. And because they didn't deal with the threat of their identity in their earlier years, now it's led to an existentialist crisis because a lot of those men are older. So the question is, will Cam Newton go through an existentialist crisis at some point? Because Cam Newton didn't prioritize the importance of marriage, family, and relationships. But more importantly, will Cam Newton have an existentialist crisis on his deathbed because he had a bunch of kids out of wedlock and he married none of those women? Now, prudence will say to Cam Newton is that if you're afraid of marriage, then you shouldn't be bringing a bunch of babies into this world. But the current zeitgeist and the current world that we live in says that what Cam Newton is doing is prudent because he's not getting the government involved in his relationships. So I can see it from both angles. But if you believe in a higher power and you believe in divine retribution, Cam Newton got to answer to God for having all those kids out of wedlock. Because it sounds like to me that Cam Newton is more concerned about the fear of man than he's being concerned about the fear of God. And as you get older and get closer to the latter stages of your life, you understand that your own mortality, guys, is imminent. I could have lost my life back in 2025, which was an existentialist threat. When that woman pulled out in front of me, it was an existentialist threat. Because at that point, I saw my life flash before my eyes. But it became exacerbated when my mom died, and it led to an existentialist crisis, which more or less made me internalize and look within myself and also tell myself that, listen, man, you got to start taking your life more serious. Not that I wasn't taking it serious, but the things that mattered to me years ago, like your money and your status and your fame, it means nothing. So what T.D. Jakes was trying to say in a nutshell is that your money, you can be a rich man broken without an identity, or you can be a poor man under a bridge broken without an identity. But at the end of the day, it's all vain. It's all vanity. It's all vanity. Because people that got money, whether it's Cam Newton, whether it's Jeff Bezos, or whether it's any man, on your deathbed, you ain't gonna be worried about your bank account. Your bank account does not become an existentialist threat or a crisis on your deathbed. But on your deathbed, you're gonna be worrying about, am I gonna stand before the Most High and stand before God and be unaccountable for the things I've done in my body, good or bad. So once again, while T.D. Jakes has some nuance to what he's trying to do with Cam and telling Cam he had to learn to live with himself, or he's going to be a broken man, and he's going to be older with children, they're going to bypass him and look past him, there's some validity to that. But what the church has not adequately done is that they expect men to take on the onerous burden of being married, but yet the church does not advocate to help mitigate the risk associated with being married in a time when being married can not only be deleterious to your mental health, but can also be deleterious to your physical health as well. So there's a paradox. There's a paradox to be talking about, meaning of the opinion that Cam Newton should go ahead and risk getting married so that he don't stand in the fear of God. Or Cam Newton should continue to have kids out of wedlock. So Cam Newton is wrong because Cam Newton is caught up in a gridlock. But I'm going to play some of the video. Hold tight. Hold tight.
Do push-ups for a bit.
Hold tight. And I'm going to break this video down.
Would it have been easier
to find companionship?
Without money?
Come on here. Well, you took it right out of my mouth. When you were broker, were you more...
There's burrito.
Hold on.
Would it have been easier to find companionship
without money?
Come on here. Well, you took it right out of my mouth. When you were broker, were you more sure that they were into you for you?
Yes.
It's part of the problem and the reluctance coming from the fact that now you can never be sure the why behind whether they are with you for a payday.
Yes.
Or whether they're with you for the prestige or the rooms they get to go into, and you have to go back in your mind and wonder what's the real reason.
And this is the thing, Bishop. You won't find out until it's too late.
Yeah.
So
let me say this. I think Cam is partially right, but also I think Cam is partially wrong. Cam does have a right to be afraid of the dangers of being married in modern times and modern relationships, because you don't know if that woman is loving you for who you are. I can read some of these comments. So there is some truth to what TD Jakes is talking about. There's some truth to it. But the problem is, what Cam might be disingenuous is that Cam will be considered good looking by a lot of women. And Cam is not an ugly dude. He's not fat. He's an athlete. He's 6'5". And while there are women that want Cam for his money, his status, there are some women that would have rolled with Cam if he was broke, if he was rich or not. So it's somewhat disingenuous for Cam to assume that women just want him for his money and they're not genuine with him. But however, it's an existentialist threat, because Cam understands that marrying a woman in America can leave you mentally bankrupt and also financially bankrupt. But it's somewhat disingenuous to assume that these women only want Cam for his money.
A person questions my marital thoughts.
Right.
It's not that I have an issue with marriage. I've been in the situation to understand this. My desire of marriage is not greater than my fear of divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I come into a situation and I start to say like, yo, I'm just this, church going individual and marriage is supposed to be here. Then I go into a situation where people in my locker room are married on Sundays, but on Fridays they say, hold on, what I say y'all at?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna meet you. Hold on.
So Cam has some justification, because he's disingenuous about women only wanting him for his money, because he's an athlete. He's 6'5". Cam got all the physical requirements that most women will want. But I do understand what Cam is saying when it comes down to marriage, because marriage has been not sanitized. It's been dragged through the mud. And because of that, a lot of men are afraid to get married. Let me tell you guys something. You'll be surprised. People have always assumed that, women are sugar and spice and everything nice. But women are human. And women cheat now. And they're good at it. And they hide it better. So Cam is somewhat relationship avoidant. Cam is also conflict avoidant, because Cam is the kind of guy that got to feel like he got to be in control. And if Cam can't be in control, and Cam likes structure and Cam likes order, then Cam feels vulnerable. So while Cam is justified in a way, then one will argue, Cam, then you need to stop having kids. But then Cam can also argue that while I know I stand in the judgment of God, and while I should stop having kids out of wedlock, I can have control over my kids' circumstance and situation.
Oh, but that's not just the whole thing.
Would it have been easier to find companionship
Without money?
Come on here. Well, you took it right out of my mouth. When you were broker, were you more sure that they were into you for you?
Yes.
It's part of the problem and the reluctance coming from the fact that now you can never be sure the why behind whether they are with you for a payday.
Yes.
Or whether they're
and listen, God, that's the fear that a lot of men have. A lot of men have a fear, a healthy fear, of casting their pearls before swine and getting in relationships, which is causing a lot of men that once had an existentialist threat because of societal pressure. They say, I don't want to deal with that crisis, and I don't want to deal with the crisis of a great divorce. Because like I said, I talked about while silver foxes shouldn't settle in relationships, equally it's scary for a man once he gets to my age to have to start all over again and lose everything he have, because he don't know if that woman's going to be loyal to him, that woman's going to hold him down. So Cam has a lot of merit to what he's having, but they take it to a higher level. Let's talk about TD Jakes himself. TD Jakes understands that his own mortality is getting nigh. And I think what TD Jakes was doing, even though he was talking to Cam, TD Jakes was also reflecting on his own mortality because TD Jakes had a health scare. Look at all the men that died over the last couple of years, guys. Alan Roger Curry. Alan Roger Curry didn't know that, I don't think he knew that the day that he died was going to be his last day. I could be wrong. But Kevin Samuels definitely didn't know that he was going to have a heart attack that night. And all the money Alan Roger Curry made, all the money Kevin Samuels made, they are immortal now. And hopefully they'll stand in the presence of God. But let's say for argument, if they're not, what does it profit a man to gain all this power, money, and prestige and to lose his soul? It don't profit anything, man. That's why I'm not impressed by men that always talk about their money. Your money ain't gonna matter in the afterlife. When you stand before the Most High, your money ain't gonna matter, your status ain't gonna matter, your clothes ain't gonna matter, the women you had ain't gonna matter. But men, you have to learn how to make peace with yourself. You have to learn how to do the work so you don't have an existentialist threat to lead to a crisis. And you have to start investing in your mental health. The problem with some men is that, it ain't all, but some men don't want to invest in their mental health. And they want advice and they want support for free. And they assume because you're a black man, you're supposed to do it for free. I'm not doing no consultations for free. I'm not wasting my time because my time is more important than money as I'm getting older. I'm not doing that for free. I'm not a Cheyenne Bryant. I'm a real therapist. And I want to help the men that want to do the work to get the help. But it ain't going to be it's not going to be free. Because I know what my worth is. And if you're a real masculine man, you know what your worth is too. If you're a brick mason, you ain't going to build nobody's house for free. You're going to charge them. But for some reason, in the black community and sometimes in male spaces, they don't prioritize their mental wellness. They don't want people to help them unpack and work through their issues. And they want it for the cheap. They want to bargain their mental health instead of investing in their mental health and their wellness and then find a resolve that won't lead to a mental health crisis or existentialist threat. Because let me tell you something. When you get my age, you're either stagnant because you haven't done the work as it relates to your identity and relationship, or you are or you're doing well and you're getting ready to leave a legacy for the next generation. But the biggest struggle, men, that you don't want to have in your last days is to be on your deathbed and deal with ego integrity versus despair. These are the 8 stages that Eric Erickson talked about. And so on your last day, on your deathbed, you're talking about you're in despair because you didn't learn how to live with yourself. And because you didn't learn how to live with yourself, it led to an existentialist crisis. And the worst thing is to be on your deathbed angry and mad and frustrated because you didn't get the kind of outcomes you wanted in relationships. You haven't dealt with your child trauma, men and women, and you live your life to please others instead of taking care of yourself. If you made it alive in 2026, this year is a new mercy for you. And you got to figure out who you are, what your struggles are, and working through your childhood traumas, your relationship traumas, so that you don't have an existentialist threat. But some of you men are still living back in 1990. You're still assuming that relationships are going to be like relationships that your daddy had and your grandfather had, and they're not. The world is different now. Men are different, women are different, and women are socialized different. So you got to wake up and stop thinking that relationships are like relationships years ago. And while Cam Newton has some merit in what he's saying, Cam Newton need to wake up as well, because if Cam Newton don't repent, he's going to be having to get him accountable for having all those children out of wedlock. So I understand what Cam Newton is saying.
Heavenly Father,
hold tight.
We thank you for the gift of...
It goes back to what I've been saying about the...
Guys.
Hold up.
Or the prestige, or the rooms they get to go into, and you have to go back in your mind and wonder what's the real reason.
And this is the thing, Bishop. You won't find out until it's too late.
Yeah, yeah.
So when a person questions my marital thoughts,
right,
it's not that I have an issue with marriage. I've been in the situation to understand this. My desire of marriage is not greater than my fear of divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I come into a situation and I start to say like, yo, I'm just this, church going individual and marriage is supposed to be here. Then I go into a situation where people in my locker room are married on Sundays, but on Fridays they sing. Hold on, bro. What y'all say y'all at?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna meet you. Hold on. But that's not just the whole thing.
Would it have been easy?
So once again,
to find companionship.
There's some merit to what Cam is saying. There's some merit to what Cam is saying, and I understand where Cam is coming from. But two wrongs don't make a right, because one will also argue why you having kids out of wedlock.
It feels like an opportunity.
But here, guys, I think T.D. Jakes was talking about himself. You guys know that T.D. Jakes had a stroke recently.
To say something to you that is really important. None of us have it all together.
He had a stroke recently.
None of us have it all together.
So
all of us got something.
So he is right that we all are broken to some degree. He is right that all of us don't have it together. Hold tight. He is correct about that. But the problem with T.D. Jakes is that I think T.D. Jakes was reflecting on his own issues, and he was also reflecting on his own crisis as it relates to his own mortality. I want y'all to keep listening to what he's saying to Cam about death and life.
Written on our sheet of paper. That's okay. But let's lower the list down so that you can enjoy the stuff while you're young enough, because you have built your life around a youth that's leaving. Bought pans that are gonna be too big, got bedrooms you ain't even gonna go into no more. The kids are gonna get their own lives and come see you on the holidays. You gotta live with you. And I tell you, like I would tell my own son, youth is a vapor. It's like...
And Jakes is right. Youth is a vapor. Your time on this earth is like a vapor. I can remember it was yesterday when I graduated from high school back in 1990. That seemed like years ago. It feels ancient, but it don't feel ancient. And I was 18 years old, 18 and young. But if you don't learn how to make peace with yourself, deal with your traumas, understand that time is your most important commodity. You ain't got time to be wasting your time on women that don't respect you. You don't have time to be wasting yourself or associated with men that don't respect your boundaries as well. But one of the things I've learned about time is this. You can make money, but you can't make time. And if you don't use your life right, then all this stuff is vain. Ecclesiastics talk about vanities upon vanities. Everything is vain. It means nothing, because David realized that David, when he was on his deathbed, he said it was all vanities. David was rich, David had money, David had women. But David lost out with the Most High because King Solomon, he struggled with lust. So if you don't learn how to deal with whatever demons you're wrestling with, if you don't learn how to deal with the issues that you're dealing with, you're going to always struggle. And you ain't going to never have peace. And you're going to wake up on the other side of eternity, or you're going to wake up on your deathbed broken as a man, dealing with a lot of conflict issues, not knowing the potential that you could have had because you've wasted time. I've wasted time. But at my age now, I'm very cutthroat and I'm very direct. You're not going to waste my time. If you're not serious about yourself, I'm not going to take you serious. But you're not going to waste my time. And I'm learning as I'm getting older to cut people off, whether it be family members, whether it be whatever. Because when my mom passed away, when I look at my dad's own mortality, I understand at some point I'm going to die at some point as well. You're going to die at some point. And you can either live your life on purpose, or you can live your life in pain and brokenness and wake up on the other side of eternity, sad and broken, or wake up on the other side of on your deathbed. Because we all gonna die at some point, either sooner or later. And if you believe in a higher power, you're gonna stand before God. I'm gonna stand before him. You're gonna either stand in righteousness or you're gonna stand in condemnation. And on that day, your money won't matter. On that day, the cars you got won't matter. On that day, the clothes that you have won't matter. None of that stuff will matter your last day on this planet. The only thing that's going to matter is how you lived your life and how you worked through all the issues that you need to work through. And at the end of the day, is my soul right with the Most High? There are going to be people that's going to make it to heaven and they're going to still be sad even though they made it to heaven because they didn't prioritize their time and they didn't deal with their own mortality. I'm talking about myself as well, guys. And that's why I tell you, man, you cannot waste your time with women that don't understand you and respect your program. But some of you are so blinded by lust, your self-esteem is low, you got mommy issues, you've living your life are living your life through the indoctrination of the women in your life. You don't know what your worth is, you don't know what your potential is, and you're not living your life on purpose.
Steam on a mirror in the bathroom after a shower. By the time you dry off, it's gone. You just got a minute to fix this, and none of those girls, and none of those jobs, and none of that money is going to be able to fix it. And I think you came here for me to tell you that. And I pray you hear me, because I don't want you to turn into a bitter old man with a lot of excuses.
And I think Jakes is,
as to why.
I think Jakes is also talking about himself. As I said earlier in this show, Jakes had a health scare when he had a heart attack. And God granted T.D. Jakes mercy. He didn't die. He granted Jakes mercy. I can't read some of these comments. He granted Jakes mercy. Jakes could have died, but Jakes lived. And so what I think T.D. Jakes is doing, he is internalizing his own mortality, and he's also trying to translate that to Cam Newton. But Cam Newton is justified in how he feels, and Cam Newton is justified in his perception and perspective about marriage and also getting married in modern culture. But Cam Newton is not right when it comes down to bringing a bunch of babies out of wedlock without a father. That's a problem. And so men, you have to learn how to live with yourself, make peace with yourself, because Teddy Pendergrass said from the 70s, he said, you can't hide from yourself. Everywhere you go, there you are. You can't hide from yourself. Look in the mirror, there you are. Teddy Pendergrass was saying this, guys, about 50 years ago. But if you don't make peace with yourself, know what your brokenness is, look at the issue head on, you're going to wake up one day on the other side of eternity on your deathbed, broken, angry, and afraid because you have not done the work to help you navigate through the brokenness that you've been dealing with. Hold tight.
He wasted his life and wasted it rich. Yeah. It's not like you're sleeping up under a bridge, but you are sleeping up under a bridge. It's not like you don't have anything, but you don't have anything.
So it sounds like what Jakes is saying is that Cam might be rich physically, but Cam is broken mentally and spiritually. He's rich physically, but he's broken mentally and spiritually. Because Cam is living under the bridge of the illusion that Cam Newton has time. And Cam Newton don't have time. I don't have time, and neither do you have time. We think we have time, but we don't have time. Because I could have died last year. I could have been standing on the other side of eternity. I could have lost my life. I never knew that my mama was going to die, guys, 2 weeks after I had that accident. And I don't think my mama knew that she was going to die. But she did, and she's gone. So you don't have time to waste your time on women that don't respect you. Men and women don't respect your boundaries. Kids that don't honor and respect you as their father. And other men that don't respect your boundaries. You don't have time for that. You got to cut them off and let them go on with their lives. If they come around fine, they don't, you can't worry about that. Because see, here's the verdict. They're going to answer to the Most High for what they've done. The good book said, vengeance is mine, said God, I'm going to repay. Time is the most precious commodity in the world. That's why you should never envy another man because of his money and his acclaim and his wealth. Because the prophet said to the rich man, he said, fool, tonight your soul shall be required of thee. Look at all the famous men that had money and status and fame, and they did not appropriate that money, status, and fame to empower others and to empower instead of empowering themselves. The rich man had an existentialist crisis when he had a heart attack and he stood before the Most High. He thought that his wealth was going to secure him in the afterlife, but his wealth never secured him. Because the rich man was a fool. The rich man thought he had plenty of time on this planet called Earth. But the rich man did not understand that he was on the clock. Kevin Samuels didn't know that he was going to pass away 3 or 4 years ago. And Kevin Samuels was a millionaire. The actor that has died this year, he didn't know that he was going to pass away. Michael Jackson, when he closed his eyes in death, his fame, his status, none of that stuff mattered. Your most important commodity, guys, is time. And the good book said, redeem the time, use the time wisely because the days are evil. And we're living in evil days now. People are crazy. These women are out of line. Some of these men, they struggle with ego issues. Hoflation is at an all-time high. You know, financial inflation is at an all-time high. And so you cannot live your life through a vacuum. You cannot continue to live in yesterday because yesterday is gone. Some of you are living in the past because living in the past was more comfortable than dealing with the reality of where you're at now. You have to make peace with yourself, understand that where you are at now is not where you're going to be in your future, and you got to learn how to uncover so that you can recover, so that you can move forward into your future. But you can't do that until you make peace with yourself, until you be honest with yourself, until you get out of that ego defense called denial.
It's not like you don't matter, but if where it counts, you don't matter. And only you can fix that. Only you can fix that. More money can't fix that. Bigger house in Paris can't fix it. South Africa can't fix it. Only you can fix that. Because every time you get on a plane, it's going to get on a plane with you. And you're going to look around and all of that black hair is going to be white and the hat won't hide it. It's going to turn white. It's going to turn white. Your knees are going to get stiff. Your body's going to ache. And it's going to be too late to fix it for the few people that you really, really care about. That short list of people.
And let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you something. The most important thing on your deathbed is not your money, not your status, it's family. And so men that are single or men that are divorced, I get it. You don't want to get married in this current ecosystem. I get it. I won't get married either in this current ecosystem because the laws don't favor men. And when men talk about what their struggles are, and when men talk about the existentialist threat of no-fault divorce, when men talk about the existentialist threat of bad marriages, the church does not address it like they should. The women that advocate for marriage, they don't address it like they should. The laws don't address it like they should, so I get it. But you gotta learn how to work around that and come up with something that's logical and rational instead of living in fear and wasting time.
Who are holding your thermostat right now, you got to get your thermostat back. You got to do what you can to explain it, and regardless to them receiving it while you're living or after you're gone, you got to get to a place of peace about that because you are running, please hear me, you are running out of time. I know you are running out of time. It feels like an opportunity to say something to you that is really important. None of us have it all together. Mm-hmm. None of us have it all figured out. All of us got something written on our sheet of paper.
So agree with TD Jakes if you want to. What he was saying in that particular episode was actually true. Jakes is right from that perspective. We all are running out of time. We all are running out of time.
That's okay, but let's lower the list down. Baby.
So when you think about your existentialist threat, when you think about your existentialist crisis, what are some of the things that you're struggling with? What are some of the things that you're struggling with as a man that you refuse to make peace with because of fear? Because I promise you, on your deathbed, you're going to be more concerned about how you lived your life and what you left as a legacy than you're going to be concerned about your bank account. Let me tell you guys something. I'm not against people making money. There's nothing wrong with making money. I believe in making money. But when you make money or idle over purpose and principle and integrity, then making money becomes a problem. And that's why a lot of men don't fundamentally understand. Nothing wrong with making money. But when you're making money outside of principles and integrity, that's when money making becomes a problem. I think we all wish we could go back in time and change the relationships that we got into sometimes, or the bad choices that we make, because we all have made bad choices, including myself. I made bad choices. I made a lot of good choices, but I made some bad choices too. Sometimes I made bad mistakes unintentionally. But as you get older, you should get wiser. And as you get wiser, you should become more cerebral. Some people get older and become more foolish. So instead of becoming a wiser older person, they become a foolish older person. And that's why I've always said that men, you have to wake up. If there are young women listening, you have to wake up. Because your beauty is fading. The pizzazz you had when you was a young woman, that beauty is gone, sweetie. And there are a lot of women that have had existentialist crisis. And if you don't believe me, ask Claudia Jordan, because listen, the wall is undefeated. Let me find this video about Claudia Jordan. The wall is undefeated. And a lot of women, just like Cam Newton, and I'm sure TD Jakes,
now, so
is and have wasted their time and wasted their youth. Hold on for a minute.
This is currently
Claudia Jordan is going through an existentialist threat and also an existentialist crisis. A lot of women, once they get a certain age, they realize they can't have kids. That's an existentialist
I'm always
threat.
happy when I'm surrounded by water.
Hold on for a minute.
I think I'm a mermaid, or I was a mermaid.
Do you think that when you're ready to settle down that there's always going to be a lot of supply on the shelves?
When's the last time you shot?
Do you think that when you're ready to settle down that there's...
So listen to Claudia Jordan and her existentialist threat. She thought she had forever. Just like a lot of men are going through existentialist threats because they haven't dealt with the pain and the brokenness of their childhood for whatever reason, a lot of modern women are also going through existentialist threats because of their hubris, and they always thought they had plenty of time to pick a good man from the man tree. But what they're realizing is that time don't wait for them either. If you don't believe me, ask Vivica A. Fox. If you don't believe me, ask Lisa Ray. If you don't believe me, ask Halle Berry. If you don't believe me, ask Claudia Jordan. A woman's beauty, because her beauty is fading away, places her in a precarious predicament called an existentialist threat. And when she realized that after the age of 50, the men are not checking for her like they used to in her 20s, now she's going through an existentialist crisis. And a lot of women, they fear getting old. That's why they struggle with men that date younger women. Because in their mind, that woman that want to be with an older man that got status and resources, she see that man as a threat. That woman is a threat. That's why I said silver foxes should never settle. If you gotten your money up and you work hard, you should never settle, man. Men need to start learning how to practice hypergamy, just like women practice hypergamy. And I talked about that on the show two days ago. Men need to learn how to start practicing kosher hypergamy. Guys, y'all like what I'm doing, get the likes up, share the stream, donate to the channel if you like what I'm doing. But men need to learn how to practice hypergamy as well. Men need to learn how to start practicing hypergamy as well. But because as a man, it takes time, energy, and effort to become the man that you are today. It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy and effort. It took me 11 years, guys, to get 3 degrees, off and on, and probably another 2 years to become a clinician. 13 years of my life was in education and working hard. And if I was a single man now, you think I'm gonna just deal with any woman? No, I would never deal with the average woman. If I was a single man now, the average woman would have to be a top tier woman. Because at 54, I'm middle age. And I'm in the late spring, I'm in the late fall to early winter of my life. Now, if I eat right, work out, eat healthy, lift weights, I can live another 40 years, at least another 35 years. But Claudia Jordan is realizing that charm is vain and beauty is deceitful, but who can find a virtuous woman? And a lot of these women are struggling because they don't have any virtues outside of their beauty, and they focus more on external beauty than internal beauty of the heart.
There's always going to be a lot of supply on the shelves, and it's not. Like at this age, a lot of the good guys are married or taken because they're good guys. And I was having a conversation with a girlfriend of mine the other day, and I'm like, well, your best bet now is maybe someone that a good man that maybe is coming out of a marriage, getting a divorce. So, you know, I think in our youth, and I would like people to...
But what Claudia Jordan don't understand is that most men that came out of divorces, they're not rushing to get in another marriage. Most men that came out of divorces are not rushing to get married again. They're not rushing to get married again because they understand the dangers of getting the state involved, and most men don't want to have to deal with what's called a great divorce. So a lot of men are not getting married again. A lot of men are like, no, I'm good, man. My dad told me he would never get married again. Not because marriage, like, you know, some erroneously say that men benefit from marriage more than women. I disagree with that. I would argue that men benefit from marriage if that woman is a good woman and she's a good supportive wife and she helps that man build and they work together and she brings that man peace and value. Then I would argue in that vein. But in general, getting married is a detriment to a man's mental health, to the average typical modern woman. If you get a good woman, a righteous woman, a woman that understands the assignment, that understands your program, and she doesn't put her career above the mission of the marriage, then I would say, yeah, you know, being married can be beautiful. I'm not anti-marriage. I'm anti-disrespect. I'm anti-government being involved in marriage. And what men are saying is that a lot of women like Claudia Jordan, the Vivica A. Foxes of the world, and just older women in general, they're set in their ways. They have a lot of trauma from prior relationships. And dealing with those kind of women can cause you to have an existentialist crisis when you're standing before a judge and he's going to try to take you for everything that you got.
Notice when they're younger, we think, oh, there's always going to be an endless supply. I can wait till tomorrow. Don't put off your happiness waiting. You know, if you find that good person, like a lot of times we wait, well, it's not the right time. It's never going to be like the right time. I would say go for it more. I wish I would have told someone told me just go for it. I probably have overlooked.
And let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, guys.
Claudia, a good candidate before.
Let me tell you guys something. Older women like Claudia Jordan, a lot of times have a lot of trauma. Older women like Claudia Jordan, a lot of times have a lot of trauma. They have the trauma from failed relationships. They might have the trauma from baby deletions. And they also have the trauma from being sexually promiscuous. And all of that trauma, a lot of time is compounded, and then it's compounded with age and her insecurities and her transmitting age insecurities and trauma to you. If you've done the work as a man, you ain't got time to deal with that baggage, man. That's not your problem. Just like your baggage is not her problem. That's why you have to wake up, deal with your issues, deal with your stressors, prioritize your mental health, get a consultation from a professional like myself, because it's not going to be free. I'm not doing no free time. My time is too important. And if you're serious about getting your health done, then fine. But if you're not, then continue to live in the shell of yesterday instead of walking in the newness of today. Because once again, I'm not a Cheyenne Bryant. I'm a licensed clinical therapist. I went to Carolina grad school. I taught school for five years. And also I worked in law enforcement. And when you get to this stage of your life, you ain't got time to be dealing with mediocrity. A woman must come correct if she's going to be in your life. You must set the bar high. Because let me tell you something, I talk to men every day, and you will be surprised of the amount of men that I've talked to where they thought their wives were honorable women and their wives cheated on them. We know that men have cheated and men cheat, but women cheat just as much as men. And that's the existential crisis that a lot of men deal with because they were living under veneer that woman was a good woman. She loved him. She was faithful. She was kind. And she was wholesome. But women are just human. A good woman is an asset if she's a good woman. But I would argue that's getting harder to define. And some of you men, you are broken because you don't identify with masculine virtues. You identify with female virtues. And let me tell you guys something. The most dangerous man that you have to deal with is a simp. Simps are dangerous because a simp would throw you under the bus when you're trying to help him. A simp would throw you under the bus trying to please and placate to a woman. So simps are dangerous because simps are not ready to deal with themselves. And simps will try to sabotage your career and your happiness because they have not learned how to live with themselves.
Why is that though?
Me thinking the timing thing, maybe prioritizing career. You know, I definitely was always like work. I never thought I had like the.
And I'm going to argue that some of these boomer women and some of the boomer fathers did their daughters a disservice. It ain't all these women's fault. Some of it is their fault, but some of it is not their fault. Because their mothers that were rebellious told their daughters to get their degrees and have fun, give their bodies to multiple men, and not prioritize marriage. But see, what women didn't understand is that there was a social contract years ago that men and women both had to follow. The man role in the social contract was to provide, protect, love, and die, and honor his wife. And the woman's social contract was to remain chaste, bear his children, and build a legacy with her man. That was part of the social contract. But the social contract, guys, has been violated. And that's why I understand where Cam is coming from. I also understand where TD Jakes is coming from. But both don't really have any viable solutions because neither is giving men the best opportunity. Cam is putting himself in a predicament because he stands in judgment of the Most High if he don't repent. But then one could argue that Cam having all these kids out of wedlock can also lead to some levels of neglect for his children, even though he's rich. But T.D. Jakes also could be standing in contempt with the Most High because T.D. Jakes, like a lot of preachers now, don't preach objective theology. They preach what's called feel-good theology, or they're what you call casual Christians. And if these preachers would preach objective theology and stop filibustering and placating to women and tell women like Claudia Jordan and Vivica A. Fox and all these other women is that you don't have time either, then it would be a better situation for black families and black communities and also for black men. But nobody tells them the truth. And so when men do speak the truth like myself and strive to be clarion callers, we're the bad guys because the world has not been conditioned to hear the truth. The world don't want to hear the truth. And so when a man gets a certain age, he becomes a silver fox, status, money, acclaim, and ideally he's in good health. Those men don't have time to be dealing with subpar women and subpar behavior. They want the best, they demand the best because they don't want an existentialist threat, which is the courts, and they don't want an existentialist crisis, which is a great divorce.
Claudia?
Hold on.
Enough cushion built up to like relax and take my foot off the gas and start a family.
And then did that just go on and on and on, and then you be 100 years old
Still working. You think that when you're ready to settle down that there's always going to be a lot of supply?
When's the last time you shot your shot at an individual?
I did get turned down one time with someone that I dated, and I tried to spin the block again.
And it's not only just Claudia Jordan, guys. It ain't just Claudia. It ain't just Claudia Jordan. Also, it's Ebony K. Williams. You got a lot of women that are dealing with existentialist threats and existentialist crisis because they did not prioritize their youth. I got a daughter that's 20 years old. She's in college. And I tell my baby girl, that's 16, nothing wrong with getting your degrees, nothing wrong with getting an education, nothing wrong with being self-sufficient until you can get your husband. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not against that. I think a woman should have some level of self-sufficiency in case she gets a dusty man that don't have a mission and a dusty man that don't have a plan. Because I believe that good men should get with good women. And that might be subjective, but I believe that good men should get with good women. I don't believe that if you're a civil fox, and I'm gonna do a show on that soon about geriatric George. I'm gonna do a show on that. But if you're a civil fox, you need to be in the best shape possible if you want a young wife or a younger wife. If you're gonna be hypergamous in beauty, dating, if you're gonna be hypergamous in fertility, fitness, femininity, and emotional intelligence, then you need to make sure that not only you have money, status, and wisdom, but also you're in good physical health. Because I don't believe that if you're in bad health, you should get a younger woman and bring her into your life and become a burden to that woman, because marriage by itself is hard enough as it is. So if you're going to get a younger wife, that woman don't need to go through no existentialist crisis because you didn't take care of your health and you made her have to take care of you. Because it's one thing to say for better or for worse, and you got in an accident, it was out of your control. But if you're not eating right, you're not working out, you're not lifting weights, you're not taking care of your health, you're not going to the doctor, you're not getting your checkups, I think it's horrible to bring a woman to that situation if she's a younger woman that's ready to be led by a man, and you old, got a big stomach, and out of shape. I don't mind saying, I'm working on myself to get back in shape. The gym is right over here where I'm at now. And I'm gonna get this weight off. I'm gonna start lifting weights. I'm gonna start getting my sleep hygiene right. And I ain't gonna keep talking about it. I'm gonna make it happen. Because I'm fair and I strive to be balanced. But a lot of women also are having an existentialist crisis and also an existentialist threat, because their existentialist threat is their youthfulness. I'm gonna do a show on that at some point too. And they need to wake up. Because one of the biggest things that women, the women of old forgot to tell women is that they don't have time either. And women always thought, because they didn't really value men, they didn't prioritize relationships, is that they could always get a man from the man tree. They always thought that they could always go back and get a man from the man tree. But what they don't understand is that as men get older, men get wiser too. And a lot of men, they remember the rejection. They remember that when they didn't have anything, you didn't value them. And a man that's very intentional is saying, if you didn't want me at my best, I cannot want you while you're at your worst, because your beauty is fading and your beauty is also declining.
Is this guy that I thought was the one, okay? So we had broken up. He was in town for an award show and they were hosting a party at this place. So I knew he was gonna be there. So I packed an overnight bag and I'm like thinking, surely he's want to hang out with me afterwards.
Right.
Like,
Of course.
Why would he not?
Like, why would you not?
So anyways, at the end of the night, I was hovering, like that. So, whenever I thought maybe we would hang out, and he goes, oh, I have plans.
Gotcha, bitch. When's the last time you shot your shot at an individual?
I did get turned down one time with someone that I dated, and I tried to spin the... I saw him in Vegas at a party where Jay-Z was there, Diddy was...
And Claudia Jordan, Vivica Fox, they had a lot of contempt for Kevin Samuels. They had a lot of contempt for Kevin Samuels. Because a lot of women were not ready to hear the truth. Because society has told women to be good, to demand the best without being the best. You can't demand the best from a man if you're not the best version of yourself as a woman. Men have goals, men have values, men have standards. Just like women should have values, goals, and standards. But a man that's intentional and a man that's serious about what he wants in a woman, masculine men ain't gonna take you back at your worst. When your beauty is faded, your body has been used by multiple men, we're not gonna take you serious, because one of the biggest things that the world forgot to tell women is that men and women are not equal. We're not equal, we'll never be equal. Most men are not even equal. We all are equal in our humanity, and we should all strive for equality in civility and human rights, but we are not equal in role and design. Men and women are not equal in psychology, we're not equal in biology. Because even though I'm 54, at 54, if I'm fit and in shape, if I was a single man, I could still get a younger woman. At 54, I could still get me a woman just about in her mid-30s to later 30s or early 30s. And as long as I'm healthy, I can still make children. My homeboy Dre got a younger wife. Dre is 57, his wife is 32. But Dre is a higher status man. So men and women are not equal. Women are receivers, men are givers. So all this nonsense about us being equal, we're not the same. We are the same as human beings, yes, but we're not the same in biology and psychology. We're not the same, never will be the same. And that's where a lot of women struggle at. They want all the rights and privileges of a man, but they want none of the responsibility. And older men that are serious and intentional can always demand the best. You should demand the best if you've done the work in your relationship. You should always demand the best if you've done the work in your said relationship. And once again, that's the lie that the world has told, sadly, a lot of women. If men hold the line, work hard, do what's right, it gets better for men as they get older. It's gotten better for me. I'm making more money than I've ever made as a professional. I'm highly educated. I'm 6'5", 6'6". If I got shoes on, I'm 6'6". I know I'm a top tier man. I just need to get in the gym and get some of this weight off and get more physically fit. But mine is that, I'm a top tier dude. I'm a silver fox. And any woman, if I was a single man like me and my wife, we've been married for 30 years, but if I was a single man again, she's gonna have to come correct. It ain't gonna be no discounts. There ain't gonna be no half stepping. She gonna have to come correct if she's gonna come into a relationship with me. But a lot of these women, I got a show coming up called He's a Predator. They're still living through the traumas of their grandmothers, and because of that, it's led them to have what's called an anxious attachment style. An avoidant attachment style, I meant. They have a avoidant or disorganized attachment because they see all men through the lens of being predators, dangerous, and they see men through the lens of what their grandmothers went through as it relates to their grandfathers. And they're losing out on opportunities of getting good men because they haven't done the work. They're broken. They're going through an existentialist threat, which is their beauty, because their beauty is fading every year. And at some point, it's going to be a crisis. Now, there are some women that say, oh, I don't need a man. I'm fine. I like being single. Then I'm not talking with you. Enjoy your singleness. Enjoy living in a house by yourself with your cat, a glass of wine, and your rose or a dildo. You know, have fun at it. But to the women that are serious about getting a good man and getting a good relationship, if you're going to come into a man's life, you got to follow his program, especially if that man has done the work. Especially if that man has built his value, his status over a span of time. You got to do the work. And if you don't do the work, you're going to be singing that song by Patti LaBelle, On My Own. Because masculine, traditional men are not going to tolerate mediocrity. And so once again, to the men that are still struggling as they're living in the shadows of their past, they got to wake up. They got to wake up, own and understand the pathologies that have impacted them as men, course correct, and then move into the newness of their lives so that they can start getting the outcomes that they want in life, dating, and relationships. But like my dad is 82 years old. He was married to my mom for 60 years. But my dad said he would never get married again. Not because he didn't love my mama, but marriage is a lot of work. And you got a woman that doesn't understand the mission. She's egalitarian. She thinks that you and her both are equal, not understanding that we're equal as human beings, but we're not equal in role and design. then you got a problem. Because when you get a certain age, you ain't got time to be teaching a woman how to be a wife. Either she understands or she don't understand. And that's why I would never marry a woman in the West again, unless she was a top tier woman and she understood the assignment. But women that are broken, women that are living through the vicarious trauma of their mothers and their grandmothers' transgenerational trauma, women that falsely equivocate, do broad overgeneralizations that there's a sweeping indictment that all men are predatory and dangerous, stay away from those women. Those women are psychologically broken. Those women are willfully obtuse. And those women have been conditioned by the current zeitgeist that we live in that says all men are dangerous. You don't want to deal with women like that because they're not going to add any value to your life. You're going to be living your life trying to always accommodate her brokenness and her emotions instead of coming into a relationship with a well-competent woman where she has a level of autonomy. You have a level of autonomy, but her autonomy and her career does not supersede the mission of the relationship. Women now want complete egalitarianism in relationships where they're equal in power, but then they don't want equality when it comes down to responsibility. And there's a masculine traditional man, you just don't have time for that. I've learned the dirty secret that most women don't even like the liberal men that deal with them because liberal men are weak. Women, regardless of their indoctrination, are hardwired to deal with masculine men that stand on business. They don't like it, but they like it. They secretly lust after masculine men that stand on business. I can't even read some of this stuff, man. These glasses. Hold on for a minute.
There, my friend Kathy White, that y'all keep trying to tie me into her death. It is not true. She was not having an affair with Jay-Z. She never told me she was messing with him. Matter of fact, when she died, she had a boyfriend. His name was Malcolm, and she died.
What up, what up, what up? On this cold evening in the windy...
And let me tell you guys something. To you silver foxes, 40 to 50 plus, 40 plus men on up in your 50s. If you work hard and know what your worth is, it gets better with age. It gets a lot better with age because you're a lot wiser, you're a lot more smart, and you're a lot more seasoned. It gets a lot better with age and time. Believe me, it gets better for silver foxes.
City, Chicago. I was listening to this young lady, Claudia Jordan, and she said she's 52 years old, and she said all the good men...
Listen to this.
They're on the planet. They're great men, great catches, are married. The only way you can get a good man, this is what she said, you can look it up. The only way you can get a good man is if they get divorced. Now, I was like, wow. What does she mean by that? You know, all the good men are married. That's not true. Because what she needs to do now, she needs to lower her standards. And I don't mean go get the guy selling beer at the baseball game. But I mean, you know...
What a lot of women struggle with is that they don't understand the difference between social market value and sexual market value. Women falsely equivocate their sexual market value with their social market value. A woman don't have to settle if a man is not financially sound, or if a man, let's say if a man's, you know, he's not working, he's lazy there, a woman shouldn't have to settle for that. But basically what the man is saying, you got to settle within reason. You got to settle within reason where you're at in this particular stage in your life.
You got to lower your standards, baby. I know you want them millionaires and billionaires. You know, it just may not be happening because, see, a lot of times a millionaire and a billionaire, it ain't the answer, boo. And just because you got money doesn't equate to you being a good man. And that's what a lot of them, you know, Hollywood young ladies value things as, you know.
And I think he's right. I'm not going.
He got money, so he's a great person.
Well, you wish someone had told you about dating like in your 40s and 50s back then? You know, you think that when you're ready to settle down that there's always going to be a lot of supply on the shelves, and it's not. Like at this age, a lot of the good guys are married or taken because they're good guys. And I was having a conversation with a girlfriend of mine the other day, and I'm like, well, your best bet now is maybe selling that.
And you know what I noticed? I think psychologically why some women like men that are effeminate or alphabet men, because those men are less threatening. They don't really see those men as men. They really see them as girlfriends. Alphabet men are less threatening to a lot of women. And then when they finally hear true masculine men speak, they don't know how to respond to it. But anyway, I'm gonna redo some of these comments, and then guys, we're gonna end this. It's already 1:40. This is just a short impromptu that I strive to do sometime, guys. These short streams, these are quick and effective. I think I'm gonna start doing more of these too when I have downtime. And also, we got a show coming up on tomorrow. Let me see if I can read some of these comments, guys. Hold on. Because I cannot see. I can read some of these comments, guys. Hold on. I cannot see. I can read some of these comments, guys. Hold on. I cannot see. I can read some of these comments, guys. Hold on. I don't know what this person said. I can't see it. I cannot see. Yeah, I can't see it, but I can't see the comments. But anyway, maybe they'll save the comments. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this brief show. The topic was wake up. Was TD Jakes talking about? Hold on. Was TD Jakes talking about himself? Was TD Jakes talking about himself? Or what was TD Jakes really talking about? I'm just gonna snapshot some of this. I'm a snapshot some of these comments, guys, because I can't see it. I can't see it, guys. But anyway, I can't say it, guys. But anyway, we know that that older men get better with time, and they, you know, they're in good shape. They eat clean. They have more options. I don't know what the person said. I can't see, man. My eyes are horrible. And some of these old hoes get mad. These old hoes get mad because they realize that they can't call in the market. And you know what the old hoes don't understand is that calling a man old at my age is actually a compliment, because being called old at my age in other countries, men are highly venerated. Older, seasoned, mature men are highly venerated. Only in America, where these ran through 304s, they gave all their youth away. They get mad and act out because they realize they don't have no more power. They think by calling older seasoned men old, that don't hurt older men. Men are not valued for their beauty. Men are valued for their wealth, status, and intellectual appeal. But some of these old chicks, man, these old 304s, these old feminists, they're bitter, they're angry. All their eggs are gone. They dried up. And, you know, the only thing they can use is insults. Insults, shame, insults, and guilt, and they need to be right. Sign language, like Kevin Samuels talked about. But also the acronym that I created called DEAF. They deny the evidence. They become enraged when you present them with the evidence. They argue ad hominem attacks, where they attack you, the messenger, instead of attacking what you're saying. Most of these old broads that come to my show, they don't attack my talking point because they can't attack it. They attack me because they don't have a... When a woman or a man start using divisive and disrespectful language, that means they've already lost the argument. And then they will fight you physically or they will flee because they can't handle the truth. So to the old chicks that threw their lives away, got ran through, and abused by other men, you need to go to a competent therapist. It's not woke. A therapist is going to hold you accountable, and you have to do the work. You have to look at the dark parts of yourself, do the work, and maybe you can get you a decent man. But masculine men, they got money and status, and older silver foxes like myself, they're not dealing with no older chick, because most older chicks got a lot of baggage. They got a lot of baggage, even though some of these young girls got baggage too, but they got a lot of baggage. I'm not saying all of them got baggage, but a lot of them got a lot of baggage. A lot of them been ran through. They got kids by a man or multiple men, and they don't add any value to a man's life. So why would a man that got money and status deal with a Western woman with a liberal ideology, ran through, kids by other men, see all men as predators, and have a victim mindset? What fool would actually be part of that? Smart men are not doing that. Maybe men that are desperate, don't know what their worth is, they'll do that. But a lot of these women, these chicks, man, they're not used to men saying what they want in relationships. They're not used to men having standards, so they get triggered instead of doing the work because they realize that they're older. They don't have the same value they had in their 20s. They didn't value the good men that were checking for them in their 20s. They thought they had time. They wanted to get with the top 20% or top 10% of men. And now they see all men through the brokenness of the men that they gave their bodies to freely and liberally. And now they want to be treated special and put on a pedestal. And that doesn't work, sweetie. Your virtue is gone. You're not as pretty as you used to be. And you've been ran through. And so what are you going to give a man? Nothing. What are you giving a man? Nothing. Most masculine men, you're not better than a man. Some of these women think they're better than men. That's why they struggle with these conversations. But women of old understood they had to bring something of value to the table to the man, and the man understood that he had to bring something of value to the woman. But these random chicks now, they don't want to bring nothing of value. That's why when Kevin Samuels was telling the truth, they laughed at him when he died because they don't want to hear the truth. They would rather stay in their delusion because their delusion keeps them in a state of arrested development, but also it keeps them in their comfortability. And a lot of them are going to die broken. They're going to have an existential threat right before they pass away and die, because they're going to realize that they fulfilled their youth. And at the end of the day, if you fulfilled your youth, man or woman, guess what? It's nobody's fault but yours. So don't get mad at the messenger. Get mad at yourself. Don't get mad at the messenger. Get mad at yourself. And and do the work. Because you know, some of these random liberal women don't understand is that by trying to shame a man and call him old, I don't care if you call me old. Calling me old is a compliment. It's a compliment that I've lived to get 54, highly educated, have high status. But me being an older man is not the same as you being an older woman. Because my value is not based on beauty. My value is based on my wisdom and my status and my social market value as a man. But your value is based on your beauty and your ability to be chaste and your ability to protect your body. And you know, a lot of these older broads, they've done a horrible job of protecting their body. So they get mad. They get mad. They think, like, you know, call them folks. Now I can't see what this person said. I don't even know who it is, but I think I saw a little bit. But they get mad because they think by calling the man out of his name and trying to shame him, it's like, man, I don't care about them old jokes. You old, washed up, shriveled up. It don't mean nothing to me. Because I know I'm a single fox. And I know that if I was a single man, I can get top tier. And many struggle with it because they don't like the fact that men have values, that men have standards, and because they've always seen themselves as being better than men on a subconscious level and conscious level. and that men should be grateful to have them in a relationship. And so some of you old Randu women that gave your virtue away, your time is up. It's too late. You're gonna have to eat crow. You had plenty of time to get a good man from the man tree. Y'all gonna be like that woman named Parker that was on my show. She said, my time is up. She said, I wish I had me a good man. But she realized that, you know, her time is up. As you get older as a woman, you become invisible to a lot of men. That's the way it is. Men, older men with money and status ain't looking at women at their age. Most men, the ones that got money and status, are not. And even some of the ones that don't have money and status, they're ashamed because they're concerned. Well, I don't care what a woman think. Ain't no woman gonna damn make me be shamed, because you can't beat me physically and you can't beat me intellectually. So you think I care about a woman trying to use verbal attacks on me? Because I can destroy you verbally and intellectually. So I don't care about no verbal attacks, calling me old, shriveled up. It's funny to me. I see age as a sign of, it's a virtue to me. I'm grateful to be 54. I don't have to put a bunch of cake up on my face, fake up, cake up, eyeliner, because see, the same women that shame men for dating older women, they are hypocrites, because they realize that beauty is symmetrical to getting quality men. So they shame other women and project their brokenness to other women because they understand that they want the older men to just deal with them as they are instead of dealing with them, and they come and being humble and saying, what can I do, baby, to make your life better? And they don't like the fact now that older men have options, that men have options in general. And we're not saying that younger women are perfect. Young women are not perfect. I'm talking about mature, seasoned, mature, older, younger women that are mature for their age, not the typical younger woman, but a mature, seasoned younger woman that respects a man, and she's really coming. Not these random young chicks either. But they think by you calling names and whatnot, it's gonna make a man get scared. That mess don't bother me. It's funny to me, because if a woman got to argue with you and call you out of your name, that means she's already lost the debate. She's already lost it, and she knows what you're saying is true. And she got what's called the Medusa complex because she can't hear the truth. That's why Vivica Fox got mad at Kevin Samuels, because they were not used to hearing these candid conversations. That's why a lot of women don't like men talking points, because they never heard men speak candidly like men speaking now. They're not used to it. And it's terrifying to them. A woman's greatest fear is that a masculine man know what his worth is, because they're not used to seeing men operating their true masculinity. And so instead of learning to be feminine, they'll rather stay in their dysfunction, because their dysfunction is what they're comfortable with. They're comfortable in their dysfunction. Let me read this comment, I'm gonna end it. I can barely talk. I don't even know who that is. You can barely talk. Go learn how to talk first and then try again. Okay, well, I mean, you think that bothered me? It's funny to me. But anyway, guys, I ain't got time to deal with these random chicks that's trying to use insults. I'm gonna end it here, guys. Y'all take care. Be good.